Joining us now, Congressman Darrell Issa from House Foreign Affairs, and look who's back, Newsweek Deputy Opinion Editor Batya Ungar-Sargon. It's good to see you both. Thanks for coming on the show. First to you, Congressman. The GOP has a path to a narrow House majority. Could control of the House be decided by 10 close races in California? What are you hearing? We're hearing Orange County, Ventura County, Central Valley.
Well, basically, the races in which we're already ahead by 2 points or more that haven't been called represent our majority. So we're pretty comfortable that we'll have a majority of 220 to 222. That's 3 or 4 seats more than the Senate has, where they're probably going to have a 1-seat majority, plus or minus. The fact is that the Senate doesn't operate very well with a 1-seat majority. The House operates just fine with a 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1-seat majority. So we're pretty comfortable that we'll have the gavels, but also that we have the responsibility now to create that divided government that the American people wanted.
Yeah, so to what the congressman just said, Batya, it's a split Congress. But Democrats, they're claiming they have a mandate. They don't have a mandate.
They do not have a mandate. I mean, that's what I think a lot of people are missing about the midterm elections. It was not a loss for Republicans. It was not a win for Democrats. It was a win for depolarization. The American people are sick of being told that they should be at each other's throats so that politicians can get ahead, so that media companies can make money, so that social media tech billionaires can make money. They are sick of the polarization. They're sick of the heated rhetoric. They want America back, where more unites us than divides us.
Yeah, to what Batya just said, even President Biden today said Democrats will likely not win the House. GOP, the issue is the GOP didn't have a policy agenda they stipulated ahead of the midterms. But Congressman, we've got a new YouGov poll. GOP-leaning independents preferred DeSantis over Trump. Trump's candidates lost in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, New Hampshire. That was a story last week, right? That's what people are talking about today. There's talk about whether Trump will announce tomorrow, whether that will backfire. Where do you come down on this? We've got GOP leaders like Winsome Sears, Ken Griffin, Mike Lawler saying he should step aside.
You know, I'm not going to tell the former president whether he should run or not. What I would say, and I have said, is that he needs to stop picking on people like Governor Youngkin, Governor DeSantis, who are doing a competent job, who have the hearts and minds of the people of their state. And certainly in the case of Ron DeSantis, national recognition of the great job he's done. We're a united party, and the way to be a united party is to show off those who have done the right thing and accomplished things. I'm always championing President Trump's accomplishments, but I also have to stick up for Governor DeSantis and Governor Youngkin and many others who are showing the kind of leadership that America needs.
You know, to what the congressman just said, Batya, there's talk about the youth vote turning out for climate change. Ron DeSantis is talking about that with infrastructure in Florida, protecting that. But Batya, we have Agence France Presse. The French press is reporting the world's elite flew over 400 private jets to the UN climate change conference in Egypt. It could have been done on Zoom or Skype. And the German press is reporting the air conditioning. The air conditioning is so cold there that people are wearing winter clothes.
Listen, scratch beneath the surface of anybody high on their own supply lecturing you about something and you'll find a hypocrite, right? It's so appalling that they fly to these conferences, they lecture us on the one hand, they ask the American working class to pay exorbitant prices for gas while lecturing them, and then they fly their private jets. But so much of the progressive movement is based on this idea. They get high on their own sense of their virtues and then they demand that the working class pay for it.
Yeah, so what Batya just said, Congressman, let's get back to what the GOP agenda is and the GOP fixes, right? Why didn't the GOP a year ago stipulate that, hey, electricity is not green? I mean, you had California voters rejecting a plan to subsidize the electric car industry, $90 billion. They rejected that. They didn't want that. Michigan voters said no to a wind farm. Why didn't the GOP come out strong and say, listen, electricity is not green. 80% of it is fossil fuels or nuclear?
Well, you're exactly right. We didn't do enough to tell the American people that the only way to have the first world that we have for now is to include fossil fuels, particularly natural gas, make the investment in nuclear and other zero emissions, and that this idea that you can blow with wind energy or light the world with solar, it doesn't work at sundown, it doesn't work when the wind drops off. And everyone who wants to be legitimately considerate of how we go to having reliable and affordable fuel has to take that mixed approach. Republicans have to say it better.
Say it better. So, Batya, what the congressman just said, Democrats have been demonizing U.S. energy for not producing more. A year ago, they said produce less to fight climate change. I mean, oil is like 100% of American transportation needs. Oil and gas, it's a component of over 6,000 everyday goods. There's no such thing as transitioning away from oil. When you increase the price of oil and gas, you increase the price of everything else. And oil prices started to take off way before the war in Ukraine. It started the day Biden took office.
I think that there's a problem here where what the Republican elite wants to be the answers to the real problems are not necessarily the answers that are compelling to the American working class. The GOP is now the party of the working class. You guys have to start acting like it.
All right, Congressman Issa, Batya Ungar-Sargon, we're going to stay on that story, what Batya just said. Congressman, thanks for your insights. Batya, it's good to see you again.